Spongebob Battle for Bikini Bottom for the GameCube. Hello guys and welcome to it. So, did it backwards, thought it'd be cool. Part 2 of my Spongebob games. And, well, obviously you know what it is now. This game was released somewhere in like 2003 or something like that. I remember playing this game right around when it came out and being amazed by it. It was one of the first games I had ever played, and I still think after all these years that it's actually a pretty good game. Time for the plot of this game. It's pretty much as basic as Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. SpongeBob and Patrick are playing with robots and horses, and they wish robots were real, and that is nothing to do with anything. But then Plankton makes his robots, like his robot making machine, and completes it. He's about to take over all of Bikini Bottom, but makes one stupid ass mistake.
Item number 1, is Plankton a genius? Answer yes. Okay, checklist complete. Throw in the switch. Welcome, my perfectly obedient robot army. Hang on, I want to get a photo for my scrapbook. Hey, hello? What do you think you're doing? Oh, no, wait, but I'm your master! I made you! No, oh, my good China!
So with that, the robots take over Bikini Bottom and SpongeBob has to stop all of them and save everyone pretty much. He fights a giant robot or two and saves some people. Really, like the last game, the story is just basically on pause. Nothing really happens until the very end when he defeats the giant SpongeBob robot and the machine gets destroyed in the end. It's as basic as the last game and it's fine. I mean, really, it's definitely way better than the last game. I mean, it's as thin, but really, who cares? It's a SpongeBob game. Why do you want a fantastic story? So it's time to talk gameplay, the real thing. The game is a 3D platformer, only like the last game, it is, like, how do I put it? It's so much better than the last game. Really, it is. The controls in this game are fantastic, and the jumping feels way better, and is way more precise, and the controls are just way more smooth and responsive. And nothing is clunky about the controls or anything. No problems with the controls at all, unlike the last game. In this game, though, you don't only play as SpongeBob, you get to play as Patrick and even Sandy. All three of them play slightly different. The game is structured exactly like Mario 64 and Banjo-Tooie. And I mean it a lot more than I meant it the last game. The last game, I really should not have even made that comparison. In this game, there's a ton of levels, and in each level there's around 8 golden spatulas. And these are basically your stars or jiggies for the game. You need to get enough of them to go to the next area, and I think there's 100 or so in the game total. These are mostly gotten from platforming, no fetch quests, none of that crap from the last game, mostly just straight up platforming. And you know what? They're pretty fun to get. There is a ton of levels in this game, and I'm going to talk about every single one. There's Bikini Bottom, which is the hub world and has entrances to all the levels, similar to the last game. Jellyfish Fields, which is way better than the Revenge of the Flying Dutchman's one, which really, it's just kind of your tutorial level and as a boss battle against this big-ass jellyfish. There's Downtown with the Sea Needle, high buildings, and rusty fans. Goo Lagoon has a lot of water and a carnival at the very end, and I love the carnival at the very end. Rock Bottom is another level which as a kid I hated, but you know, I gotta say I actually like it a lot now. It's eerie, interesting, and it's actually pretty fun to play through. The Marmolaire I used to really like as a kid, but now I actually kind of loathe it. I mean, it can get really annoying. It's kind of weird. It has a boss also. Sand Mountain, which to this day is still my favorite level with tons upon tons of slides and is awesome. Next is the Kelp Forest, which is a major pain in the ass. If there had to be one level that I did not like in the game, the Murmur Lair is close, but the Kelp Forest is the only level I probably don't like. I mean, it's just a pain in the ass. Let me explain. First off, it's very dark, and the puzzle with the stone tikis makes absolutely no sense at all. I just was able to stack them and luckily get onto the platform. I don't even know how to do it for real. I've never done it in my life. The slide part even sucks. So how can you make the slide part suck? And finding the campers is downright impossible. This is the only level that really I don't like. The Flying Dutchman's lair is so drastically better than the last game that it's hard to believe that they even called the same thing. And it's probably the hardest level in the game. The last level is Spongebob's Dream, which is awesome, crazy, and is tied with Sand Mountain for my favorite level. I mean, there's some amazing moments to it, like with this extremely difficult platforming, jumping on the music things in Squidward's Dream, and the giant slide that's incredibly fun to go down. It is pretty damn good. Actually, now that I think about it, all these levels are pretty damn good. All of them have to do with the show, and they're all structured very well, and they're fun to play. That's like the main thing. Almost every single task in this game is great and interesting, so you won't get bored, I assure you that. Let's talk about the characters that you play as, and what they can do. SpongeBob has the Bubble Bowl, which is like where he throws a bowling ball, a headbutt thing, a foot stomp, and he has these missiles he gets at the very end of the game. Patrick can pick up shit and throw shit and do a belly slam. Sandy can glide, grab onto Texas logos, and use her whip to hurt stuff, basically. Also, these slide levels are pretty fun, and depending on the character, depends on what you do. SpongeBob uses his tongue, Sandy uses a board, and Patrick, I think, just slides. I don't know. I don't think I ever went on a slide as Patrick. Now I guess I'll talk about the bosses. There are 3 mini-bosses and 3 main bosses. The mini-bosses are as follows. King Jellyfish, who is super easy and not even a joke. Tron, or whatever his name is, and he's incredibly simple. And you get to fight the Flying Dutchman again, and holy shit, he is a lot better. Just look at this. I mean, compared to the last game, this is so drastically better that it's obvious that this is the much better game. Now let's talk about the big bosses. You fight a giant Sandy robot that's piss easy, it takes a while. A giant Patrick robot that I used to have the biggest trouble beating, though it's easy now. And a giant robot SpongeBob that's surprisingly kind of epic and is actually pretty hard. The enemies in this game themselves are these other robots, obviously, and there are a ton of them in this game, and you need a strategy to kill each one like the fastest. And it can get pretty crazy when they throw like 4 or 5 types of robots at you at once. For example, like these cloud guys, you want to use the helmet on when you're SpongeBob. Or these guys with the weird shield, you want to use a missile on them to get rid of the shield and then hit them. And if they throw both of them at once, it can get pretty interesting. And the combat is very simple but can get really interesting. It's hard to explain. The platforming in this game is actually pretty good, and towards the third half of the game, it actually gets pretty damn hard. And it's not because of control, I can assure you that. Last to mention in the gameplay are the shiny objects and the socks. The shiny objects are basically your currency. You can spend it for Mr. Krabs to get some golden spatulas, or to unlock certain parts of levels. Now the socks are given to Patrick. Every level has so many socks in it, usually around like 8 to 12. Once you find 10 total, you give them to Patrick for a golden spatula. That's simple. Now that I've talked about the gameplay, are there any problems? Well, if I had to find a tiny problem, it's that the game is literally just a copy and paste of Super Mario 64. It has no innovation whatsoever. This is a minor complaint, and you know, it really doesn't have to do anything with the gameplay, and you might say, oh, you're just an asshole or something, but I thought it would be worth mentioning because it is, in that sense, pretty generic. Overall, though, the gameplay is great. Like, it's just really fun and just works. Now to talk about the graphics. This game, when it came out, was on par with games at the time. And it is not cel-shaded, and I am very glad it's not. The characters look great and animate fluidly in this 3D stuff, and the game is very pleasing to the eye compared to the last game. Nothing really looks bad at all. The textures all look good and fit the themes perfectly, with each level having their own theme, and the themes really never repeat, which is nice, and every level looks different from the last. The frame rate gave me no problems at all and was constant. Everything from the show is well translated into 3D, and it's a hell of a lot better than the last game. That's all I gotta say. Way better graphics. This game just has a really good appeal to the eye. The sound in this game is actually pretty good. The music can be a bit generic, but it's a little better than last game's. Last game's was pretty good. And there's a couple really good themes, like the snowboarding theme, and actually the best thing about the Kelp Forest is probably the theme. The music for each level is good, and it definitely fits the level. While some of them not as great as the others, they fit the level at least. You can tell that the developers actually cared about the music and the graphics, and I applaud them for that, because THQ doesn't exist anymore, who made this game, or at least published anymore. So, music's pretty good. How about that other sound stuff? It's pretty good. Jumping sounds at best okay out of everything, and you get satisfaction when you hear those shiny objects coming from those smashed tikis and destroyed enemies. Everything sounds pretty silly and is pretty generic for a 3D platformer, but still, it's a Spongebob game. Voice acting in this game is actually alright. It's actually still kind of funny to me these days, and it's on par with the show. I'm not sure if it has the original voice actors, but it's still alright. All the characters have good dialogue, and sometimes what they say is like gold. Overall, the sound and the graphics are very polished, good, and just all around nice. So, with all this said, I think it's pretty obvious that I think this game's pretty damn good. It's a good 3D platformer that you can provide many hours of gameplay, and is pretty cheap now. And unlike the last game, I really actually recommend it to everyone, and you should just go check it out, because it's a really fun 3D platformer, and you'll be surprised with it. It literally is like $2 on Amazon now. It's available for PS2, GameCube, and Xbox original, but I don't think it's backwards compatible. Now, with all that said about this cool SpongeBob game, out of 10, I'm going to give this game an 8.9. I think it's pretty fun. So, see you guys on my next review. School's out. Yeah.